I want to tell you a story. It's not really a story, but I suppose I'll put it in a story form. Let me first, I suppose, before telling you the story, talk about our good friend's question about how do you start a philosophical conversation. I actually don't know, since this is not really a philosophy class. I think if you were to look at relationships before you jump into something very serious, it begins with a foreplay, icebreaker of sorts, and then from there you kind of begin to observe, where is this person? What are they thinking about? What are they in the mood for? It's like when you have a companion, you ask them, what do you want to have for lunch? Imagine you have been longing to have Zachary's pizza, but when you go home, you realize all they want to talk about or all they want to eat really is a burger. And you try to manipulate the conversation a little so you can kind of gear your companion towards Zachary's or Domino's or Round Table, but it doesn't matter, how much you try. She's just stuck on wanting to go to In-N-Out or Barney's. So I think when you're young, it's a little difficult to be able to do that because you suffer from what we call being a zealot, that you're so passionate, you're so intense, and you're very self-absorbed, which is, when you're young, it's actually quite good, especially if you're focused on the right things. You kind of just go in there and you say, I don't really care what you want to eat, and I don't really care what you want to drink. We're just going to Zachary's, and then this is the story. And if your companion happens to be a little passive, he or she will say, okay, let's just go there. And they'll put their own desire on hold for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. So the problem with imposing your own desires onto others is that sometimes you are able to kind of guide the conversation towards where you want it to go, which is you have enough passion, you have enough charisma, you have enough magnetism, and the conversation happens to be relatively interesting, and the other person has a little bit of interest in philosophical thinking, that eventually you're able to kind of just guide them and they'll follow you. So you're just going to have to test the waters to see where it goes. But you do that only for one reason. All of us in this class, are stuck in the world of the unknown. If you were to ask Ray, if you were to go back in time, what things would you have done differently? And most likely he would have said, I would have done probably 85%, 90% of everything I've done in my life differently, so I could come to a different place. And so one of the things that you need to understand is all of us in this class do things because we don't know. We are winging it. And that's a great gift. The saying that ignorance is bliss, do not underestimate the truism and the validity of that particular tiny little statement. We do things because we are ignorant of the consequences. We do things because initially they bring about a good amount of pleasure. They bring about a good amount of dreams and hopes and fantasies that fuel our system, really. And you move forward. And because we haven't yet been touched by the consequences of the things we're pursuing, pleasure remains unexamined, our activities remain unchecked, and we simply push forward. But in the end, all paths have to end. If not today, tomorrow, if not tomorrow, next week, if not next week, next year. And whenever you reach anything's conclusion, what you have is, when it comes to what you have done, you now have a good amount of knowledge about it and a little bit of ignorance, which means that now that you know what you have done, what paths you have taken, what you have reached and obtained, you look back and you say, was it worth it? And the answer is no. So, couple of things. Everything that we do in life, we do because we lack information, i.e. experience, i.e. knowledge, which is a good thing. As long as you don't know, you have dreams, you have hopes. Things fuel and power you forward. Once you complete the journey, relatively speaking, what you have is regret. It's always true. Whenever you have obtained what you initially desired, you realize it's no good. Then you have regret. That regret makes you really, really sad. And whether you want to be religious or not, believe in God or not, whenever you have regret, something about you begins to repent. You want to forgive yourself. You want to accept the fact that you've made this error in judgment. Sometimes you're able to overcome it. Most often you just get stuck for a while. And then you become sad because you can't overcome your sadness. So, number one, you're going to school because you don't have a degree. And someone or something or some force in society, maybe your parents, have told you that if you go to school, if you stay in school, you'll become successful. You'll be this and you'll be that. It's true, nothing wrong with that. Eventually, your academic journey must end, as all journeys will end. And then you sit back and you say, okay, I have a bachelor's, I have a master's, I have a PhD. Now what? Has it been a waste? Add to it if you have majored in something you don't really like. Add to it if you get a job related to your field of study and you find yourself stuck in a cubicle. Add to it if, with the academic knowledge that you have, you go out there and you find yourself a companion only to realize after 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of being in the relationship that this is the wrong companion. And then you're going to look at yourself and say, really? I have a PhD, and when it comes to getting a companion for myself, I failed so miserably. I have the wrong person in my life. After all, a PhD couldn't save me. So remember, anything and everything that we do in life, we do so because of limited knowledge, information, experience. And because we don't know, we have hopes and dreams. They nourish us, they fuel our desires, and we move forward. Once you have it, you realize, for the most part, it has been a waste of time. Then you find yourself in the cradle of regret. It's going to take some time for you to adjust because you wasted youth, you wasted energy, money perhaps, and all the wrong things. And depending how intense your regret is, hello, you're either baptized in water or baptized in fire. Now, a whole lot of you in this class, because you are very young in age and in thinking and life, I have no doubt that when you go out on dates, you can chit-chat for the first 2, 3, 4, 5 months and then become serious. Ray, on the other hand, doesn't have that luxury. Ray is old. Maybe he can do 5, maybe 10 minutes of chit-chat, and then he's going to go for the jugular. How often do you go to Kaiser? He doesn't have the patience to sit back and just chit-chat about nonsense. He's done enough nonsense in his life. He is almost an 80-year-old man. And even though he desperately desires to have a companion, he says, I've been there, I've done that. Who's out there for me? Assalamu alaikum. So remember, when you are old, what you have access to is past, present, and future. You know how things are going to unfold because you've done them so many times. Do you know why I come to class in always a relatively crappy mood? No. Because I have been in the classroom for 30 years. I know exactly how conversations come about, how they unfold, and how they end, and how long they last inside students before they're stolen by life itself. And I do. I love being in the classroom, but but remember, I know how things will end. Philosophy, reflection goes against the flow of life, goes against human nature. Philosophy means overcoming what all of us are in this class, which is human. Now, here's the thing you need to worry about. The moment you have access to the unfoldment of any activity, you lose passion for it. Imagine you have a mom or a dad, boyfriend, girlfriend, brother, sister who've been depressed for the past 10 years. They come to you. They've always come to you for advice. The first, perhaps, few years, you've received them well. You've been very hospitable, very generous with your time, energy, wisdom, money, physical space. You invite them, you cook for them, you clean for them, you do everything for them. They come back the following week in the same mood. Again, you're very hospitable and generous. You do this over and over and over again simply because they are poor, you are rich. They give you attention, you love it. They bring out the wisdom that lives inside you, and you love it. You're not smoking, you're not drinking, you're not porning, you're actually going into your own tiny little life experiences, and you're pulling all this wisdom that lives inside you, and you're taking care of another human being. But then the 3rd year comes, or the 4th year, or the 5th year, they knock on your door and they say, listen, I have the same stuff, what do I do? And all of a sudden you say to yourself, I have been here 5 million times with the same person. It seems as if change is nearly impossible. And you keep telling them, didn't we talk about this yesterday, or day before yesterday, or last week, or 2 months ago, or last year? Don't you ever listen? Can't you ever apply the things you listen to? Can't you change? And they say, well, I want to, I just can't. And after a while, you realize when the phone rings, oh, it's your brother or sister or mom and dad. What do they want from you? Well, they want to tell you how depressed they are. Is this your first time being there? No, you've been there a million times. What are you going to do? Well, if you go back in time, you realize the first time the phone rang, oh man, you ran, you picked up, and you talked to them for 5 hours. Now, you look the other way. You say, I don't want to look at the phone. I don't want to hear their voice. I don't even want to see their name on my phone. In fact, I just want to move to a different state so I can be as far as I can from them. So remember, all of you in this class have hopes and dreams because you don't yet have what you're looking for. You're not yet saturated. Once you do have it, you find yourself in a state of paralysis. There is nothing to do, nothing to say. So just in case next time you see Ray on the street, you want to say hello, but he looks the other way. He's been around young people for about 50 years. He knows their dreams and hopes. He knows deep down they want justice and equality. You guys take him back to when he was 20. And he relives all those experiences only to realize in the end, experiences come and they go. And all that's left is a memory. He's not going to get too excited because you're excited. He's not going to get too sad because you're sad. He's been there. He's done that. And then you're going to look at him and say, Ray, I've been talking to you for the past 2 hours, man. Not an ounce of emotions from you. Don't you have anything to say? Ray says, nah, not really. So remember, all of us are born into life being absolutely ignorant of what life is all about. And because we don't know, we dream. You go through the journey, you accomplish, hopefully, some of the things you wanted. You have it. Now you sit back and you say, really? Why? Then comes regret. This is natural. You don't need therapy for that. You don't need to go on YouTube and figure out what these new age gurus are telling you about regrets. It's a natural thing. And whenever you have regret, you begin to doubt your own judgment. Your confidence goes down. It's a painful place to be.
I think then that life is one of the goals for anybody is kind of to lower expectations. Like, I don't know, debilitating yourself.
You know, when you come from cultures that have been around for 5, 6, 7,000 years, the moment you're born, your parents just tell you, you know, life is going to be tough. You're nobody. You'll never be anybody. You'll amount to nothing. And you kind of look at your parents and say, can't you just be a bit more positive? I say, no. There is nothing positive about our history, about our literature, about our philosophy or music. It's a collection of sad stories, one after the other. Well, I want to be happy. And they'll smack you a little bit, you know. Just try to live life the best you can. Let me say a couple of things about expecting too much. About 30 years ago, I had this student, and she really, really liked this guy. She was American, he was Turkish. And one day she knocks on my office door and she enters very excitedly and she says, he asked me out, we're going to go to Santa Cruz. I said, well, that's great for you. So you guys are going to go in the morning and come back in the afternoon? No, we're staying there for 2 days. Woo! 2 days. Well, you know, they were in my class, so they were hanging out. But this time, you know, things were getting a little serious. So they go out, you know. And then Monday morning, I usually get to campus around 5:30. I get there and she's waiting by the office. What are you doing here? I'm upset. Upset? What did I do? You didn't do anything. It's that guy. What did he do? I've been liking him for about 4 months. Been fantasizing about this, you know? And then we go to Santa Cruz and we get a room. And A turns to B and B turns to C and C turns to D. And we turn off the lights and we're on the bed. And he is done after like 5 seconds. I say, God damn it. Here I've been fantasizing for all these months, thinking that you're going to take me all the way to the Garden of Eden. You know, that the angels are going to come down and whisper in my ears. But no, you took me all the way to Hades, where death lives. Right. And so you know what she did? At 3 a.m, she demanded that they drive back to Sacramento, and they did. And she didn't call him. She was angry the entire drive back. And she comes to my office and she says, how could he do this to me? Now that is called having a high expectation from something you have no knowledge of, you haven't experienced. Now imagine if she had the flip side, which is, I'm going to go out with a loser. He probably won't be able to have a conversation. He's just shell of a human being, looks good on the outside, hollow on the inside. He's bad in conversation, probably smells bad, everything about him is bad. But I'll go out with him because I feel sorry for him. Look at him. And then you go out there and you realize, oh my God, he's actually able to hold a philosophical conversation. Now that's a great surprise. And then you realize he is inspiring emotions inside you that you haven't had for many, 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 many years. That's another surprise. And you realize that when you are with this person, something about you just is inspired and excited, and you come to life, and that's beautiful. And now you say, I wonder how he is in, you know, la boulangerie, the bedroom. And then you go there and you realize, oh my God, they've been doing this for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. Yeah. And there's another surprise. And you say, my God, this is like an all-around Jesus Christ. And then, of course, you get married. Why? Because, well, you've never been married. You have no idea what marriage is. So you're, again, governed by hopes and dreams founded on no knowledge or experience. So, yeah.
So, what you said earlier about having, like, going into something with the mindset or the idea, it just made me think of another question.
But before you go to another question, let me just say the following. Should you, any of you in this class, have the luxury of running into a Socrates or a Jesus Christ or a Malcolm X or a Mahatma Gandhi at some point in your life, what you want to do is you want to initially, because you want to be liked by these giants, you want to sit and talk to them about your life, where you've been, what you've done, what you usually think about, what you consider to be the best way to reform society, reform people. And they simply sit and listen to you. There is something about them that after a while, they don't really need to say much. They make you feel small. That you're a mannequin. You look good, but all you have is just a face. with nothing on the inside. One of the best accounts of this is when Carlos Castaneda, for those of you who may not know who he is, he's dead now, I think. He was a PhD student at UCLA doing anthropology, and he wanted to know how drugs work. The drugs that kind of help you see visions, that you're able to sit next to Jesus Christ and see what he's talking about. And he's told that he should go to Mexico, certain parts of Mexico, and find certain people. And, as him and his friend, I think it's somewhere in Arizona, they're walking, and his friend says, well, that old guy over there, he's a medicine man. You should go have a chat with him. And there is something about this old man that's very captivating. Carlos Castaneda goes, sits next to him. But this old man, without having even said a word, makes Castaneda feel very, very small. In the 1960s, getting to UCLA and being a PhD student, all you have left is your dissertation. That's a huge deal. It's not like today, And so Castaneda talks and talks and talks for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours without stop. And the old man simply looks at him, thanks him, gets on the bus and leaves. And Castaneda just sits by himself on the bench saying, what the hell just happened? I rambled on for 5, 6, 7 hours. I don't even know anything about anything. And the point I'm trying to make is when you are in the presence of the right people, you don't really have to worry about overvaluing yourself. You kind of found yourself to be counterfeit, period. You don't have to do much. When I read the dialogues of Plato, I realize what a novice philosopher I really, really am. When I listen, for those of you in this class who have ever listened to, say, the autobiography of Malcolm X on audio, there is a section near the end of the book where it actually is the voice of Malcolm X. He's actually giving a sermon. And man, it's powerful, it's beautiful. It's not like Martin Luther King Jr., who has kind of been practicing this particular sermon he wants to give to an audience. He is a preacher. Malcolm X isn't that. He is just passionate. And so that's another way of kind of having your confidence shatter in the proper way. Yeah. Yeah.
Why is it that we will go back to a familiar hell?
I'm sorry?
Why is it that we'll go back to a familiar hell and not to a new hell? Say we have an issue and that happened, and we know how to break the habit, or we have to break that. But instead, we continue to do it. That we should or that we stop. Familiar hell instead of trying to break it.
There are a couple of things that you need to consider. First, it's something we've talked about plenty of times in this class, but let's just do a quick repeat. One of the things you need to understand is you have a physical body, and you have an emotional body, and you have an intellectual body. Just because you know something, it doesn't mean that you can have the proper emotions to make the changes. All it suggests is that you know something. You know you need to come to class. Well, that knowledge doesn't inspire you to go home and write papers for this class. Or imagine whenever you are with your brother or boyfriend, he just makes you want to throw up. You know he's not good for you. Okay? Now, you know that intellectually and emotionally it's being told to you. In a very physical way, you actually throw up. But what happens is your body, your mind, and your emotions, despite you having this wisdom of getting out, you realize you're in the grips of what we call habits. All of us in this class know what things we should or shouldn't do, we ought or oughtn't do. But the truth is, what you need is will. And this, just because you know something, it doesn't mean you can actually activate this part of yourself and will yourself out of it. It doesn't work that way. The other thing is habit creates routine. It also creates comfort. This is familiar. You know what this world is like. You know, just in case some of you forget all of this, think of it this way. If any of you in this class have ever come from, say, a home where your parents divorced, you know, when you're 3, 4, 5, 6, your mom or your dad come and say, honey, we're divorcing. It's not about you. We love you. I just can't stand your father anymore. Or your dad will say, I just can't stand your mom anymore. But you need to understand that before the both of, these figures coming to you saying we are divorcing or parting ways, they have sat on knowing they don't like each other. Okay. They have kind of been simmered by the emotions that are negative when they see each other, when they talk to each other. They have sat on this volcano, but they have kept it from erupting. There comes a point where they say, I don't want to be with him. Whenever I am with him or her, all these negative emotions come about. One day they just will themselves. Sometimes it happens very mindfully. Sometimes it happens organically. You want to go to In-N-Out and you find yourself at the courthouse. Okay? And then you go and get the forms. I mean, these days you can do it online. And so you fill out the form, but you don't submit them. You just leave them on the counter somewhere, on the shelf. At a certain point, you just turn them in. So these are all steps that people take. So when your parents come to you and say, we are divorcing, you have to understand, first, they felt something, and then they give it a good amount of thought. They become tax collectors. If I divorce, how much am I going to get? Am I going to get custody? Am I going to get this? Am I going to get that? Even when the emotions and the intellect come together, there is still the habit. But I like being a wife. I like being a husband. I like being a father or this or that. There comes a point none of those things work. Again, it takes time. So you knowing something and not being able to act on it, it means, well, you just have to wait another 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Hopefully, something will happen. Or maybe not. When you are young, you will engage in conversations with anyone. When you get a little older, like our good friend over there, before you want to have a conversation, you say, why? And let's just say you have great reasons for the why. I want to have a conversation because of A, B, C, D. Then you're going to say, well, who am I going to talk to about this? Oh, Peter. Well, where exactly is Peter, intellectually speaking? Where is his life? After class, what does he do? Does he smoke? Does he drink? Who are his friends? What sort of music does he listen to? Is this conversation just going to be a waste of my time? Is it just going to be like a one-night stand? Because Ray can't do a one-night stand anymore. I mean, he can, but there's a good amount of guilt that comes afterwards. Okay? Now, there is this other thing that you need to also understand about guilt. That initially when you do something that goes against your moral codes, whatever they are, you feel guilty. And there is a reason why you feel guilty. There is still a good amount of light inside you. You're still able to see some of the mistakes you've made, the way you've harmed yourself and harmed other people, that there is still this kingdom of God inside that says, Peter, don't be stupid. Amir, don't be stupid. Shanti, don't be stupid. What happens is you do something wrong, but you have zero feeling about it. That's when you've become absolutely Satan. You become demonic. For those of you in this class who have ever, say, gotten drunk or smoked marijuana and you felt really, really bad because your father has always told you not to, your mom has always told you not to, Jesus Christ has always told you not to. So you're around your friends and you smoke or you drink or you have sex, and afterwards you say, man, that was awful. I mean, it felt good, but I'm never going to do it again. And then you do it again and again and again. And then after a year, you do it and you feel absolutely nothing. That's a place you don't really want to be at, where you do all these awful things, but you feel absolutely zero about the things you're doing.